Hi, it's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik of Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's best auto service experience, and they're 21-time winners. I think they're pretty good. Do you think if you win 21 times in a row, you're pretty good? 21-time winners of best auto repair in Vancouver, as voted by their customers. How are you doing today, Bernie?
Doing well. I always love that introduction because it does make me feel pretty good.
26. Oh, you're welcome. It's earned. You earned it. You guys do a hell of a good job.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you everyone for voting for us, because it really does. It's a real honor.
So 2016 Toyota Highlander Hybrid. We're doing some service work on this vehicle. What was going on with this Toyota?
The vehicle was brought in as a new customer, brought in for maintenance service and due for a B service, which is, we often say a B service is an oil and filter change along with a full vehicle inspection.
So a hybrid vehicle, what's unique about it?
Well, of course, the hybrid drivetrain is unique, but there's not really a lot different in the servicing. I mean, it still has an internal combustion engine that needs an oil and filter change. We do a thorough vehicle scan of this vehicle, an electronic scan of the vehicle, which we include in a lot of other vehicles, but it's especially important in a hybrid because there are a lot of electronic systems that, if there's a fault of some sort, could be picked out. Of course, if it's a major fault, there'll be a warning light on your dash of some sort, but it's just good to just see if there's anything there that might be any cause of concern for the client. But other than that, we inspect the brakes, wheel off inspection, rotate tires if necessary and needed. I mean, some cars you can't rotate the tires because they're different sizes. A Highlander you can. So we rotate the tires, lube the door locks, hinges and latches, and just to do a general inspection of the brakes, steering, suspension, cooling system, charging system, that type of thing.
So were there any other additional issues that found with the vehicle?
A couple of dirty filters like the engine air filter and the cabin air filter, but other than that, everything else was good at this time, not due for any other service items at this particular time.
And what was the kilometerage on this vehicle?
Kilometerage. I'm glad you changed that, because I always write mileage. I go, why do we do that when we use kilometers in Canada? But 90,000 kilometers, so just under 60,000 miles for those folks across the border or in England who still use miles.
And what maintenance services were due at the specific amount of usage?
Yeah, so for this vehicle, basically the oil change interval is 16,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles. I personally would do it a little more frequently, like maybe 10 to 12 on the oil service. I think it's important to change the oil just a little more often than the manufacturer recommends, but that's nonetheless the manufacturer recommendation. Spark plugs, 192,000 kilometers. I think that's 120,000 miles, somewhere in there. Transmission fluid, 160,000 kilometers, 100,000 miles. And engine coolant is 160. Transmission actually doesn't have an interval on this vehicle unless you're using it for heavy duty use, but I think it's important to do it probably around 100,000 kilometers. There's a lot inside the electric, the electric motors are bathed in the fluid, so it's important to change it. So next service we'll recommend to the owner to change the transmission fluid. And it's not a difficult service on these vehicles. It's not a flush like a traditional automatic transmission fluid. In this vehicle, it's more of a drain and fill like a standard transmission. So simpler, and not that costly compared to an automatic service.
So do you know off the top of your head, is this a nickel metal hydride battery or lithium ion?
I don't know. For some reason, I'm gonna take a guess that it's a lithium, but I could be wrong. I know Toyota, they're kind of around the cusp of changing a few things around. So it might still be a nickel metal hydride because it's a straight hybrid and not a plug-in, but I'm pretty sure the plug-ins all have
lithium ion.
Lithium ion, sorry.
Yeah.
Let's get into a couple pictures here. So there's our redesigned in 2016 Highlander. Good looking vehicle. What else have we got here for pictures? There's the outside, of course. Let's have a look under the hood. Here's the under hood view. So this is the internal combustion engine located under this hybrid Synergy Drive plastic cover. Over on this side is where the transmission is located. We actually have the air filter out of this vehicle, so that's why that strange gap is there, which you may or may not notice. But anything marked orange, those are all high voltage cables. So this is where, any servicing has to be done with caution around these high voltage cables. And there's not a whole lot to see. And, there's a lot of covers and things that can be removed, but it does have a radiator in the front. Interesting, what I find interesting about this, and actually I'll go into the next picture. So I've kind of split the next pictures, look at two different sides of the compartment. So this is a sort of internal combustion engine side. But so on the right-hand side, you notice the brake reservoirs over here, and the ABS brake and a number of brake components are located over on the side of the vehicle. And yet the brake pedal is actually over on the other side. So this is a fully electronic braking system. It's all drive-by. I mean, most brake systems on hybrids, they're all essentially brake by wire, but this is interesting because they move the reservoir and everything over to the passenger side of the vehicle, completely away from the pedal like you would find in a traditional vehicle. And the actual pedal, it's interesting. It feels like you're pushing on a brake pedal, but that's all controlled, you know, electronically and with dampers and things to give you a feel like you're actually pushing on a brake as you would in a traditional car. But it's actually it's completely electrically activated. So when you push the brake, you may actually not even be activating the brakes in the car. It may just be the hybrid drive unit that's slowing the vehicle down in regenerative braking. But of course, when you put a hard activation, then it uses the regular brake system fully. That's a view of that side of the engine compartment. This is kind of a closer view of the sort of, I'd call it transmission side. The hybrid drive unit is actually down here, the transmission, which has the 2 electric motors. And this is the cooling system for the hybrid. They're 2 separate cooling systems. So one for the hybrid side, one for the internal combustion engine. And being an all-wheel drive vehicle, the Highlander, along with the Lexus counterpart, has an electric drive motor in the rear. So the all-wheel drive is actually accomplished electrically and not with any coupling between the drivetrain. So there's no transmission tunnel going down the middle with the drive shaft. It's all done. The rear drive is all electric. And that's our picture show for the day.
And is the battery basically underneath the floor pan?
I believe so. Older Highlanders, it is. And so I would say that this would be in the same spot. I didn't really tear it apart to look in detail. It's funny that there's not a lot of information about these. I mean, I sort of go, just to educate myself for the podcast. I'm okay, wonder where, let's have a look at this and how is it different from the previous model years? And there's really nothing out there. In order to find a lot of these things, you really have to, go rip through repair information or actually start tearing the car apart. But I would say that they wouldn't have redesigned the vehicle in any appreciable way. I mean, that's a good spot to put the battery under the seat.
And how are Highlander hybrids for reliability?
Well, they're really good. Now, this generation, there's no issues that I could find with it. But, I know that on the older generations, so we're talking like this would be the second generation Highlander or is it first? Anyways, in the 2000 model years, first decade of the 2000s, a lot of them had inverter problems. Most of those were covered by a recall or factory extended warranty. At least in the US, they were. In Canada, we weren't so lucky, and often owners had to foot the bill, which is substantial, huge, like up, a bit shy of $10,000 parts labor to do a inverter. So a very expensive item. And I don't know why they didn't extend that warranty to Canada, but probably not enough people yell and scream up here or something, or we don't have enough lawyers to make that happen. But anyways, inverters have been a problem, pretty frequent problem. But interestingly enough, I looked at, there's some sites just to get some more information on, it's called carcomplaints.com. It's pretty good. It's got a lot of good information on issues. In 2009, they just show the Highlander hybrid is having an enormous spike in problems compared to others, but they all seem to be brake-related issues or ABS brake system, and nothing with the inverters. It's funny, none of that's mentioned. So my caution is you got to watch websites that have information, because a lot of times it's just a vent for people to complain about stuff, and it doesn't quite paint the full picture of the vehicle. So there's a lot of stuff that happens on these that isn't shown there, and a lot of things I wasn't aware of that people are complaining about. So, but to me, it's a good vehicle overall. It's just got to watch the inverter. On the older ones, the newer ones, I'm sure they've solved that issue.
And how about, is this a vehicle that you would recommend?
Absolutely.
Depending on year, I guess.
Yeah, depending on year. But, I think anything older that you buy, you've just got to be a bit cautious and just know that, when it's out of warranty, there's the potential for some extremely expensive parts to fail. There's the hybrid battery. Generally, these have all lasted a lot longer than people have thought, but, there are potentially more expensive items to fix. But, this vehicle's newer. I definitely recommend them. I think they're really well built overall. There's very few problems with them. It's a Toyota. They're very good. If you get something with lower mileage, you're probably better off, but you will pay more money, of course. And I think with hybrids, it's always a balancing act of, are you actually going to get the value out of the improved fuel mileage? If you're driving strictly highway driving, you're probably not going to see any benefit. If most of your driving's around the city, then you'll get the benefit of the improved mileage and efficiency that a hybrid offers.
Versus the extra cost of having a hybrid versus just a plain ICE engine model.
Yeah, versus the extra cost. And, we see that. I mean, we do a lot of diesel repairs. I'm not going to single out any other manufacturer, but, we see a lot of diesels, and some of them aren't so well built. And all that money you save on diesel fuel is often spent in our shop or other shops fixing mechanical problems. And you go, well, where's the actual savings? You would have been better just to, I don't know if it's better for the environment. I don't want to say that, but, you may have been better off to just burn that up in fuel than have them, spend the money. There's no savings there. So it's always a balancing act. You never know. And then of course there's the environmental issues to take into account when you try to formulate it all. It gets kind of complicated. But the thing about a hybrid is there's less CO2 going out into the air from your vehicle for sure. That's an absolute fact when you're driving it. So
there you go. If you're looking for service for your hybrid in Vancouver, BC, Canada, the guys to call are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. You have to call and book ahead. They're busy. Or you can check out the website, pawlikautomotive.com. Hundreds, over 600 articles and videos of all makes and types of repairs. For many years now, we've been doing this. And of course, on YouTube, over 350 videos. Do a search for Pawlik Auto Repair. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Leave us a rating on iTunes or Spotify. We would much appreciate that. And thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We love doing the material.